Hello, my name is Nina and I'm a Customer Relationship Manager at the Registers of Scotland. Throughout today's webinar, I'll be explaining what we do, how we support the Scottish conveyancing community and the people of Scotland. Registers of Scotland, RoS, is responsible for compiling and maintaining 20 public registers. These relate to land and property and other legal documents. Our registers ensure that every property in Scotland is protected for its owners, which enable confident land and property transactions. The land registration system is recognised by the World Bank as underpinning the Scottish economy. Although the keeper's role is registration and maintaining the land register, we also have a commercial side to our business. This means we have developed a range of products and services to enable the solicitor to submit their application. And I will cover some of these later on. It's my intention to take you on a journey from the purchase of a bit of land or property through to its registration. To start off this journey, it's important to understand the registers and the relationship between RoS and the solicitor. We have relationships with a wide variety of organisations and the public, but the majority of our customers are conveyancing solicitors. All our policies, procedures are dictated by the Land Registration etc. Scotland Act 2012, which came into force on the 8th of December 2014. This supersedes the Land Registration Scotland Act 1979. The 2012 Act brought about a few changes, such as online forms, advance notices, and electronic title sheets, and the introduction of the Cadastral Map. But one of the biggest changes was the one-shot rule. Under 2012 Act, the emphasis and onus is on the applicant to make sure that their application is acceptable for registration. For instance, the applicant must be satisfied that the deed-inducing registration is valid at the point of receipt. If there's an error within the application or deed, we will return your application with an explanation so it can be amended. The acceptance of an application for registration is tied to the general application conditions and the various conditions contained in the Act, section 21 to 28. Although we will not duplicate the work already done by solicitors, we do carry out a range of checks throughout the registration process to ensure registration requirements have been met. As I said, we currently hold 20 registers, but there are two main registers, the General Register of Sasines and the Land Register. Sasine, which means Latin name for seizing of land, was established in 1617 and is the oldest national public land register in the world. Each property was given its own unique number and every transaction affecting that property was recorded onto the search sheet for that property. The Sasines Register holds the history in chronological order for a particular property. The information held in the Sasines Register was a description, more often than not didn't have a plan outlining the property and was not guaranteed. So the Land Register was introduced on the 6th of April 1981 by the Land Registration Scotland Act 1979. It is a map-based computerised register of interests in land which is guaranteed by the keeper. There is a separate title sheet for every property registered, which holds information on current ownership, mortgage information, and any conditions and restrictions which burden the property. The extent of the property is defined on a copy of the Ordnance Survey map. For a property to transfer from the Sasines Register to the Land Register, there are a number of triggers, such as the property is sold, changes proprietorship, or is remortgaged. At that point, the Sasines search sheet is frozen, and from then on, transactions appear on the Land Register title sheet. On receipt of an application, the keeper will make up a title sheet, and each time the property changes hands, new title information will be issued. The Sasines register still holds the history of a property up to the date when the property moves on to the land register. So the land register is gradually superseding the Sasines register. However, the Sasines register and land register still exist side by side for the moment. And I'll talk a bit more about the land register completion later on. So in order to prepare an application, as the conveyancing solicitor, you will interrogate either or both the land register and the Sasines register. To do this, the platform of choice is Scotlis, Scotland's Land and Information Service, which was launched October 2017. Scotlis is a map-based property information portal. The development of Scotlis is an ongoing process, and we hope to continually evolve it. For instance, we launched a citizens feature to Scotlis in August 2019, allowing citizens to carry out property searches and have the option to purchase title information. We run a number of Scotlis webinars covering Scotlis for beginners, hints and tips, and how to carry out a Sasines search. So please check out our website for more information on these. You access Scotlis through our business online portal, and you will need a business login to use. Here you can see you have the option of searching the land register, Sasines register, or our judicial registers. The map on the land register page is interactive, and you can use the map to search for property by zooming into the map. The base map is shown at the bottom right-hand side of the page, and this will show you how far you have zoomed in. This is particularly useful if you don't have a postal address. You can also use the search options on the left-hand side. The toggles on the right-hand side of the map offer you further information that can be applied to the map, such as aerial photography, crofts and common grazing. Here I have applied the county layer. There are 34 counties including the sea, and you can zoom in to see what county the property lies in. Our most recent feature is the measuring tool. You can access this feature by clicking on the ruler icon on the right of the screen to draw and measure an area or distance, with the option of converting the measuring units from the default of square meters. This map function will help you interpret title information when subjects are described by meters. We have also included a print map function, allowing users to print what's on the screen, including any chosen layers for reference. This is not your title plan and should only be used for sending in a query to us. By using the zoom buttons, the land register layer is enabled by default and is visible at 1 to 10,000 and is shown as a grey layer. If you zoom down to 1 to 500, you can add aerial view shown on this slide. In this example, I've entered in the title number for Edinburgh Castle. It has confirmed it's in the land register, and here it shows higher level information pertaining to the property. If you are happy this is the property you want to view, you now have the option at this point to purchase the property information. You will then be able to view and download the title sheet and title plan. In this example, I have entered the address for Orkney Library. The information provided says it cannot be found in the land register. So by clicking on the Search Sasines button, it will take me directly to the Sasines register. You can of course search from the home page using the Sasines search function, and you can see here there are different ways to search, such as by search sheet, address, name, or by organisation. Here we can see the search sheet number, and at this point a chance to purchase the search sheet. This takes you to a copy of a search sheet which you can download. One of the first things you will do while preparing your application is submit an advance notice. Again, this can be completed through the online portal. An advance notice is a notice that protects a deed intended to be registered in the land register between two or more parties for a 35-day protected period. An advance notice has legal effect the day after it is entered into the application record or recorded in the Register of Sasines. For example, an advance notice applied for within business hours on a Monday will be entered onto the application record that day, and the protected period will start on the Tuesday. An advance notice can cover various types of applications, such as first registration, notice over a whole, transfer of part, or you can discharge an advance notice. And once submitted, you will get an email notification to confirm we have received it. Ensuring the boundary extents of the property is captured correctly is essential before you submit your application. The cadastral map is a map of registered land rights in Scotland, which the Act describes as showing the totality of the registered geospatial information. Cadastral units cannot overlap, and this means that it will not be possible to create a competing title. In terms of mapping and registration, this means it will not be possible to create or accept for registration a deed which includes land already registered. When a deed overlaps with a registered cadastral unit, the application will be rejected. Also, common areas will require their own title sheets, rather than being reflected upon the title sheet of the primary property. So we have shared and sharing plot title sheets. With the exception of platted properties and leases, the cadastral unit number will be the title number of the plot's title sheet. Cadastral conflicts regularly occur, and we do advise that you order a plans report over the property prior to submitting your application. We cannot accept an application with an overlap, and you would need to get this fixed before submitting your application. In any application for first registration, the deed to be registered must contain a description that is sufficient to enable us to map the property on the cadastral map. This means any new or historic deed plan that is referred to for extent must be of a suitable quality. This also applies to any rights or burdens that require to be referenced on the cadastral map. So I'd like to show you some of the common issues with deed plans. This example shows a lack of surrounding detail, which means we can't accurately determine the location of the plot or the rights and burdens in question. This is often referred to as a floating shape. Using the inappropriate scale can lead to rejection where, for example, the scale of a plan is such that we can't accurately establish where the boundaries of the plot lie. Hand-drawn and unclear deeds are not accurate enough and will be rejected if we can't define the features on an old map, which will be out of date and may not show the new updated features. It is not a matter of degree, but an absolute requirement that there is no overlap on the cadastral map. Again, a pre-registration plans report can be used for confirmation that a deed plan is suitable for registration. The Keeper's deed plan criteria, which provides a useful guide to our deed plan requirements, is available on our website. So you are ready to start preparing your application. In order to do this, you need to make sure the current owner owns the house and can sell it, and the legal extent of the house is in order, and check the burdens and servitudes attached to the property. Prepare a plan and get all the documentation ready to submit to the Keeper. The 2012 Act allows the Keeper to provide consultancy, advisory or other commercial services. Therefore, we have developed a range of conveyancing tools to help the solicitor, such as plans and legal reports. We check the suitability of the plan submitted for registration, and we compare the plan, the boundary of the map information that we hold to ensure there are no overlaps and identify rights and burdens that affect the plot. There are 3 levels of plans reports, and the different levels represent the complexity of information required. A legal report checks the legal extent, such as undischarged securities, and makes sure no one else has got to the register before you. Development Plan Approval, DPA, is a free service that ensures that any title extent issues for new developments are identified before the application stage for individual plots. We work in conjunction with the developer and the solicitor throughout the registration process. The service compares the digital plan for a development against the registered title. It confirms that the external boundaries of a development fall wholly within the developer's registered land. We have worked closely with housing developers to create and enhance this service, so much so that they have become advocates, supporting us to promote and continuously develop it. Our customer services team are our frontline help. You can contact the team either by phoning or email. And on request, you can obtain copies of documents from the Land Register, Sasines Register or Register of Deeds. We also have a property search team who will facilitate searches that you can't do on your own through ScotList. Our online services team will set you up with a business log-on to access our e-products such as eForms and ScotList. And the team is also there to help with any application questions you may have. To support you through your registration process, we hold guidance and supporting information which can be found in our knowledge base on our website. Knowledge base will provide a single intuitive source for supplementary information on registration, as well as additional support and guidance. Once you have all your information, you are ready to complete your application form, and you access the form through our online portal. The form is intuitive, and the first 2 fields on the form, which are the application type and the deed type, determine the questions asked in the rest of the application form. If you look at the right-hand side of this example of the form, a first registration would ask you to complete all the questions shown here. A dealing with whole would select the questions only pertaining to this type of application. Once you have completed your application form and have all the relevant deeds, you are ready to submit your application. Since the 24th of March 2020, we were no longer able to accept paper applications as we went into lockdown. However, we have been working on a digital solution for a couple of years, working closely with our customers to develop a service that would benefit us all. This put us in a great position to launch our digital submission service quickly. The Coronavirus Scotland Act 2020 came into force on the 7th of April 2020. The Act gives the keeper powers to accept electronic copies of paper deeds for registration on the Land Register and recording in the Sasines Register. There has been a subsequent update to the Act, Coronavirus Scotland No. 2 Act 2020, which ensures writs or documents which fall to be recorded in the Register of Inhibitions or the Register of Judgments, not covered by Schedule 4 of the original Act, be covered to allow electronic submissions for registration. From a customer point of view, the digital submission service has allowed customers flexibility on when to work because they don't require to meet the daily deadlines for physical post. They also have certainty that an application has been safely received by the keeper with a digital audit trail, and in some cases, customers have told us they have made cost savings on postal and courier services. For RoS, the main benefits are twofold. Firstly, the digital submission service provides increased resilience, meaning that our registers would not have to close in the event of a disruption or where the postal service or access to RoS buildings are restricted. Secondly, the DSS can act as a stepping stone towards fully electronic digital conveyancing. I've highlighted here the principles that are to be used for all digital submissions. Firstly, you must have an RoS online service account. And we recommend that you include all application forms, deeds, supporting documents that are all related in one digital submission. For example, a disposition and an accompanying stand security should all be submitted together. Your application will be processed the next working day after submission. The coronavirus legislation negates the need for RoS to have sight of any paper documents for applications submitted via DSS. So once you have scanned and submitted them, keep them safe until your application is accepted onto the register. All submissions must still meet existing legislative requirements for the type of transaction being registered. Each type of transaction will have its own particular set of requirements and supporting evidence. It is for you to satisfy yourself that on submission that these have been met. DSS allows you to submit an e-form created by another firm. It is the 8-digit alpha code that drives the data, so you can have multiple firms within one digital submission. On this slide, I've attached the link to guidance on how to complete a digital submission, which also includes helpful videos taking you through the process step by step. To help our customers, we have identified some of the top rejection reasons using the digital submission service. And you can find this on our website, which also offers some hints and tips. Another one of the cornerstone projects of our digital transformation is our Digital Discharge Service, or DDS. DDS replaces the antiquated paper process with an entirely digital service. The activities of solicitors, lenders and RoS are now centralised in a single online portal that's integrated with our existing online services, so a major systems change is not required. It's faster, whereas the old system could potentially take months to complete a discharge. The customer journey for both solicitors and lenders with DDS can now be completed in a matter of minutes. Another one of our corporate objectives is the completion of the land register. In May 2014, Scottish ministers invited the Keeper to deliver the benefits of completing the land register by 2024, which feeds into the government's land reform agenda, underpinned by understanding who owns Scotland. It's our responsibility to deliver this information. Its achievement would give us a fully digital register much better suited to the requirements of today. And there are a number of triggers in place to make this happen, such as first registration and voluntary registration. There is also Keeper-induced registration, which allows RoS to move a title from Sasines register onto the land register without an application from its owner. But this is best suited to residential areas. The coverage to date is illustrated on this map of Scotland. The darker coloured areas are the completed areas. And the vast majority of titles are within towns and city boundaries, and as such, the land mass coverage we have achieved so far is through registering a surprisingly small number of titles in rural areas. Around 98% of Scotland's land is classed as rural. As at the end of July 2021, we are currently at 46.3% land mass on the register. We now report on address coverage rather than titles, and we are currently at 69.7% of Scotland's addresses on the land register. The benefits to having your property on the land register are you get the certainty of what you own, your land assets and ownership. It's important for future transactions in providing a secure legacy for the next generation. Your land is clearly shown on the cadastral map, defining your boundaries and references to your rights and burdens all in one place. There'll be no more of the ambiguous descriptions that you find in Sasines. And there is also efficiency savings of only having one active system of land registration. Completing the land register is not an easy task. The three triggers I mentioned earlier take skill and expertise. This includes the actions of submitting solicitors, detailed knowledge from their clients, and registration expertise from RoS colleagues to map the property in detail and interpret underlying property deeds to deliver a complete registered title sheet. Each of these current approaches is underpinned by the Sasines data, and it is this fact that has led to us identify a fourth approach to obtain a more rapid answer to the question, who owns Scotland? Sasines Register already contains data on property ownership. The thinking we have developed over the past few months is whether we could unlock the data and make it more accessible. We seek to do this by collating spatial data to provide a visual representation on a map or where that property is and its approximate extent, then link it to the Sasines data that provides ownership information. Doing this would enable us to provide information for most of the land in Scotland well ahead of it formally transferring from the Sasines to the land register. This approach will also de-risk one of the known challenges with the current approaches to completing the land register, namely that many properties will not transact before 2024. And this means that they will not come onto the land register through a first registration, and many properties are not suitable for keeper-induced registration, which leaves voluntary registration as the only mechanism for some land to come onto the land register by 2024. Whilst this unlocked Sasines data will not have the same certainty as a fully registered title, it will be a very useful addition to inform policy relating to land ownership and could be easily accessible to the public, effectively allowing us to fill in the gaps to allow us to help answer the question, who owns Scotland? It's also anticipated that if those properties which are covered by this approach ever do transact, the work done to unlock Sasines will be a very useful starting point for solicitors, making it cheaper and easier to prepare a first registration or voluntary registration application. Jennifer has posted a number of blogs on the subject if you want to keep up to date. Also, our events team are currently putting together a webinar on the subject, which will hopefully be available in October. So keep an eye on our events page for more information. We have a new register which will come into force on the 1st of April 2022, known as the Register of Persons Holding a Controlled Interest in Land, RCI for short, as part of the scheme developed by the Scottish Government and approved by Scottish Parliament to improve transparency in land ownership in Scotland, and is a key part of the land reform agenda. For a variety of reasons, ownership or tenancy of Scotland's land and property can be held in a variety of structures, such as trusts or partnerships, or a complex tier of entities, which can make it difficult to identify who is actually making the decisions about what happens to the land and property. The person who holds title can be found from the property registers, the Land Register and the General Register of Sasines, but that person may not be the person who has a say in those decisions. So just to give you a bit of background to the journey so far, the Land Reform Scotland Act 2016 gave a regulation making power to Scottish ministers to provide for the disclosure and publication of information about controlling interest in landowners and tenants across Scotland. In 2016, the Scottish Government ran a public consultation on controlling interest in land and improving transparency in land ownership in Scotland. In 2018, draft regulations were laid and Scottish Government consulted on these. Parliament unanimously passed these regulations in February 2021, and the register will commence on the 1st of April 2022 with a one-year transitional provision ending on the 1st of April 2023. And finally, I would like to point you to our website where we provide guidance, hold information on our fees, details on our standards and services, and access Scotland's house prices and, of course, vacancies. Currently, we have a dedicated COVID-19 site where you can find the up-to-date guidance. And we also have social media channels, podcasts and blogs, and you can sign up for our e-newsletter. I hope you have found today's presentation useful. And if you have any follow-up questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch. Thank you.